The time is at hand.
From the crackhead capital of the world in Williamson, West Virginia, you are in dark places. My name is Junebug Fugit. Hey there. Did you hear about this? Those weird, creepy clown guys are back. Creepy clown past haunts mayoral candidate. A British mayoral candidate hopes that voters can overlook an unfortunate past incident wherein he was busted terrifying people while dressed as a creepy clown. Running for office in the city of Doncaster, Richie Valance reportedly expressed regrets over his brief stint as a haunting clown nearly a decade ago. The misguided moment occurred in April of 2016 when Valance was roaming the streets in a clown mask and stumbled upon a pair of hospital workers who were understandably deeply unnerved by the encounter. Looking back on the incident, which led to Valance being convicted of causing public distress and banned from dressing as a clown, the mayoral candidate mused, "I'm not proud of it, but I have changed a lot since then." As for what motivated his odd behavior back in 2016, he claimed that the costume was a form of protest against gangs that had been bullying him. It wasn't meant to be out scaring anybody, he said. Put on a mask to hide from the abuse and slander I was getting. That's a good way to not draw attention to yourself, I guess. Time will tell whether or not the voters will buy his reasoning for the strange incident, though Valance may have handed his opponents the perfect fodder for the campaigns when he declared, "At the end of the day, a clown mayor is not what we want." Doesn't seem to be trying very hard. Unsettling creepy clown encounter reported by Canadian youngster. And all these stories are by Tim Banal, by the way. Tim's putting in some overtime this week. The Canadian Police Department hopes to get to the bottom of an unsettling incident wherein a youngster reported being approached by a clown who offered her candy and a ride home. The nightmare-inducing encounter came to light on Friday when a Cosmics Valley branch of the RCMP, I don't know what that is, took to social media to alert the public about a troubling event that occurred the previous day in the community of Courtenay. According to their post, a student was walking home from school and found themselves face to face with the unnerving stranger who was wearing black shoes, brightly colored clothing, a black clown nose, and had his face painted with light white makeup. As if the odd individual's appearance were not disturbing enough, cops said the creepy clown offered the youngster candy and a ride home, which she smartly refused and promptly reported the Williamson weirdo to the police. Authorities are understandably keen to identify the individual at the center of the strange case, asking residents to check their home security footage for the mysterious Harlequin, who would have likely stood out in any setting. The department also used the incident to urge.
I've got the urge. She's got the urge to burble. She ran the rebel in the
Sorry. Parents to talk to their kids about the importance of being cautious around strangers, especially those roaming around dressed as clowns. And there's also a chainsaw wielding clown arrested in upstate New York. In a wild story from upstate New York, a chainsaw wielding ne'er-do-weller clad in a clown mask briefly menaced a neighborhood before being taken down by a vigilant resident. Thanks, vigilant resident. According to local media report, the bizarre bust occurred last Thursday afternoon in the community of Cohoes, near Albany. I saw a dude in a blue sports jacket in a clown mask walking down the street, witness Natalie Gwynn recalled. It was a little weird, but I kind of rolled my eyes and ignored it. Her nonchalance soon turned to concern when I heard a man screaming, "Call the cops," repeatedly. It was later revealed that after the clown left Gwen's line of sight, her neighbor noticed him peering into vehicles parked along the street. That suspicious observation led him to confront the wandering Harlequin, which resulted in a scuffle erupting between the pair. When the proverbial dust settled, the neighbor had pinned the clown down and was yelling for someone to call the police. which Gwen had heard moments after she spotted the curious clown. Cops arrived quickly on the scene and separated the two men, ultimately arresting the clown, who was found to be in possession of both an electric chainsaw and a metal knuckle knife, both of which yielded felony weapons charges. The masked man, identified as Craig W. Wolcott, was also booked for menacing an individual with a dangerous instrument or deadly weapon. While the strange incident understandably unnerved the normally quiet neighborhood, one imagines that they can likely rest easy, since in this instance the creepy clown was taken into custody and is unlikely to make a return appearance in the area. And there's another one. Creepy clown terrorizes Swedish town. A twisted miscreant in a clown mask has been terrorizing the children of a small Swedish community for the last several weeks. Brought to our attention by Swedish high strangeness researcher Fred Anderson, the unsettling case reportedly began in early April when youngsters in the Stockholm suburb of Marasta returned home with troubling tales of encountering the haunting Harlequin. Tim Banal loves that word. Have you noticed that? He puts that in every one of his clown stories. He chases children and frightens them. Resident Teresa Tangerstrom lamented, recounting one worrisome incident wherein the creepy clown wielded a fake knife and tormented a 10-year-old girl. She screamed in fear, the perturbed parent said, but the man just laughed and kept running after her. Spotted roaming around different parts of Marasta on multiple occasions, the ne'er-do-weller has become the talk of the town among residents, with many understandably concerned about his intentions. He seems to be getting a thrill from scaring the kids, mused Tingerstrom. We're worried about what he might do next. Expressing similar sentiments, resident Linda Turonen detailed how her young daughter and her friends had a particularly unnerving experience with the weirdo. The guy in a clown mask came to them on an electric scooter. He screamed in a creepy way and nearly ran them over when they tried to run. It's really disturbing. For their part, Marasta authorities indicated that there may be little they can do about the clown. If he's just riding around in a clown mask and making strange noises, it's not a crime, Officer John Norberg explained. But if he repeatedly directs sounds or words at the same person, that can count as harassment. Since the more serious crime of appearing to wield a weapon has seemingly not been reported to police, he encouraged residents to immediately contact the authorities should their kids encounter the clown, rather than simply sharing the strange stories among themselves. Meanwhile, Tingerstrom called upon her fellow townspeople to do their part in helping unmask the miscreant. Writing on social media, someone in this community must know who he is. Better to tip the police one time too many than one too few. This week on the show, glitches in the Matrix. This first story comes from Sasquatch 2. I was walking home late at night when I saw a guy ahead of me turn a corner. A few seconds later, I turned the same corner and there was no one there. No doors, no alleyways, nowhere he could have gone that fast. Just vanished. Creepy. They gave me morphine at the hospital after I asked them not to, and the Matrix didn't just glitch, it melted. I stood up and asked for a nurse, and literally everyone in the ward disappeared at the same time. Full-on inability to perceive human figures. When I'm stressed, I always dream of bridges. Bridges that go right into the water, or scary high bridges. When I'm particularly stressed, there's a certain bridge I dream of. It's very high, very steep, very narrow. In my dream, it's so steep that I have to cross over it by crawling on my hands and knees. When I get to the top and look down, it's as if I'll start sliding down it out of control. One day my husband and I were traveling in Texas on a side road to a small town, and oh dear God, but there was that bridge. I started screaming, "It's real! It's real!" It was the steepest, most narrowest bridge I've ever seen. I begged my husband to stay to the inside lane, covered my eyes, and screamed the whole way across. I told him we're not going the same way home. Funny thing is, I never dreamed of it again since. One time I turned on the radio and the classic rock station was playing The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. I effing hate that song, so I changed the station over to the regular rock station, and they were playing The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. I still hate that song, so I switched over to the rock station on Sirius, and I heard the last couple notes of a song, only for the next song to be The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. At that point, I turned the radio off and just listened to the road noise for the rest of the trip. Sometimes I have dreams of the future. I find myself in ordinary situations and can predict what happens in the next few moments because I already have dreamed of that situation. It's always something in school or whatever. I had a dream about Minecraft years before it was out. One time I dreamed about meeting a friend's new boyfriend. I remember thinking it was a strange dream because she wasn't a super close friend of mine, so it's not like I had seen her recently, and she was single at the time. A few weeks later, I met the boyfriend from the dream. He looked exactly the same as in the dream and had the same name. Many years ago now, myself and 2 other friends were walking down the street to my house when we passed a property that had been abandoned for 10 years. We used to go inside and play as kids, etc., missing floorboards, etc. The house was lit up, fire going, people having what looked like a housewarming, and we thought, cool, finally someone bought it and moved in, etc. The next day, still just the normal abandoned house. Super freaky that 3 of us saw the same thing. When we thought about it, we had seen curtains, a sofa, etc. But we realized that for someone to move in, we would have seen things like workers, movers, etc. But we saw nothing, etc. I bought a men's shirt, and it had a pocket on the breast. The fabric of the pocket bunched under the shirt, so I decided to cut it in hopes it would fix the problem. It didn't, so I threw the shirt in my drawer to use for my PJs. Months later, I take out the shirt to wear, and the pocket is fully intact. Freaked me out so bad that I threw it out. Decades ago, I was at a classmate's house, while about 10 of us were studying. Some sort of door-to-door solicitor came up to the door and was dressed, styled, and looked exactly like me. While my classmate's mom talked with them, all my classmates were looking at me, then looking back at the salesman. It wasn't like it was an attempt at copying me. It was as if someone hit Control plus C, Control plus V. Exact same clothes, exact same sunglasses, exact same hair. One day I was sitting home alone. I saw a black something moving in the kitchen, like just walking by, but it looked like an Enderman. Enderman? Enderman. I don't know. Guess my brain just lagged, but I definitely didn't want to go check that out. I would usually dream of something, and months later, maybe a year later, would dream, and it would suddenly happen, and I would experience deja vu. Everything so accurate to every detail. It was so weird. I try and walk a few miles a day, usually the same way each time, which just makes a big rectangle. Basically, I walk to where an old restaurant was, turn left, walk down that road, then turn left again, and walk the back road home. The other day I was walking and bypassed the old restaurant. Next thing I know, I'm walking down the same path I came from. If I check out a new game / movie / TV show for the first time, going in completely blind, mind you, specifically with someone else with me, I tend to call the exact plot down to the most minute detail, including dialogue. Been able to do this since at least 7 years old. It freaks people out, myself included, some days, but I've learned to just embrace it and laugh it off. This happened a few years ago. My dog ran out the front door, down the street, across the street that was perpendicular to my street. She was really booking it, so I ran back to the house, got my car keys, and drove after her. I stopped at the stop sign, looked across the road. She saw me and began to run across the road back to me. Just then, a red car came speeding down the road. I yelled at my dog to stop, but she didn't. I just sat there, my heart breaking, feeling like I was going to throw up because I knew in my heart that the car had hit her, except when the car passed me by and I looked, expecting to see her dead, she was just standing there, wagging her tail with that goofy dog grin. There was a big whoosh of air, and I couldn't breathe for a second, and things seemed to go in slow motion, but my dog was fine. She came trotting over to me and hopped in the car. She was, and still is, fine. I don't know what happened. I know she stepped off the curb. I saw her do it. The car didn't swerve. In fact, I don't think the driver even saw her. She's a short, little, beige-colored, dandelion-looking thing, and she blended into the foliage. I just still don't know. I'm glad that she's still with me. Not super notable, but I still think about it. I used to go to this little church thing at a school, and we'd gather in the gym to play before singing / scripture and all that. The big corner windows were on the left side. I know they were on the left side because I used to stare out them. Anyway, went in on a regular day, ready to earn a new badge for my vest, and the windows were on the right side. In the 80s, before cell phones were a thing, I was following a guy while heading to class. He was talking to himself and then stopped and asked himself a question. What? As in, what did you say? How could he not know what he said? Well, I think it was probably just a crackhead. In my early 20s, I was driving to a concert with a friend. Typical of my car at the time, it started to overheat just as we crossed the bridge into the city. Now there is literally nothing in that area but closed up manufacturing plants at that time of night. And this was very early 90s, and we didn't have cell phones. I pulled into one of the parking lots to park my car, mentioning to my friend that I didn't know where we were going to find water. She hopped out as I popped the hood and said, "You're never going to believe this." Directly in front of the car on the ground, in between my headlights, was an unopened gallon-sized bottle of distilled water. Craziest thing ever. By the way, we made it to the concert just in time to see Aerosmith. Hey, there you go. I was sitting in my car with my dad, and I distinctly heard my sister, who was at home, say, "Are you guys almost home? I'm scared," in a very specific, concerned tone of voice. 2 seconds later, my dad's phone rings. Guess who's on the line? My sister. She said, "Are you guys almost home? I'm scared," in the same concerned tone of voice. I was pretty freaked out. And for some weird reason, that just reminded me that I was editing the last episode of the show, 219, and I was at work trying to edit on my dying laptop battery, and had my earbuds in, just cutting out all my stutters and stuff like that I normally do. And I heard some guy say, "Hello?" right beside my car window. And I looked and there was no one there. I don't know why that reminded me of that, but it was freaky. I got in a motorcycle accident about 17 years ago. I'm going 45 through town, and a woman who didn't see me turns left in front of me. It could only have been a millisecond, but I remember weighing my options and thinking if I should try and go over the car or under it by lying the bike down. I put the bike down. It went straight under the car. I went diagonally. I slid across the pavement, wearing no helmet, no jacket, just jeans, and a cheap zip-up hoodie from Walmart. So I slid for 80 feet or so, not sure on the exact measurement, but it was a long way, on the pavement. And when I stopped, I just stood up, and the only thing wrong was that there was a hole in my hoodie, about the size of a dime, not a scratch anywhere on me. I remember looking at it, then at my mangled bike, and just screaming in my head, Physics don't work this way. I have a sleep tracking app on my phone that has a setting for lucid dreaming. It will start saying, "You are dreaming," repeatedly in a woman's voice with a bit of an echo. I was at work one day when I started hearing that voice randomly every few minutes or so. I checked my phone, and as soon as the screen turned off, I woke up in my bed as the sun was rising. A bit freaked out, I went to take a shower. Then on my way to work, I started to hear that voice again through my radio. When I turned my car off, a bit freaked out again, I once more woke up in my bed as the sun was rising. This happened about 3 or 4 more times, all at different times of day. I didn't trust reality for about a week after that, and still refused to use that particular setting on the app. It just seems like a weird thing to do in the first place. Why would you put that on your phone? When I was in first grade or so, I had this crazy dream that my best friend was actually there with me, having a sleepover. I woke up, saw him on the air mattress. He sat up and started to float. He goes, "Look, I can fly." I said, "Oh my gosh, you can. Maybe I can too." And I could. So we flew around my bedroom together, and he pulled a book off my bookshelf using telekinesis, and we read it. That's all I could remember. The next day I go to school and tell my friend about the dream. I explained that he was over for a slumber party. He woke up in the middle of the night and started to float, etc. His face gets panicked. He stops me and says, "I think I had the exact same dream." I said, "Seriously?" He says, "Yeah, and you could fly too. And we flew around your room together, and I can move things with my mind. And I moved a book off your bookshelf." We were pretty freaked out. This happened when I was 11. I still remember it like it was yesterday. My grandfather was getting old, and he had been in and out of the hospital a few times that year. At that moment, he had been in the hospital for probably 2 days. We had gone into the hospital to visit him. I gave him a big hug and told him that I loved him and I would see him tomorrow. That night I went to bed and had the most beautiful dream. My grandpa came into my room and sat on the rocking chair in the corner. He invited me into his lap and told me he was going away for a while and that someday he would see me again. I shouldn't worry because everything was okay and he wasn't in any pain. I smiled at him and gave him a big hug and told him I understand. And then I looked over at my brother sleeping in the bunk below me and asked my grandpa if we should wake him up and tell him. When I turned back around to get a response from my grandpa, he was gone. I ran to the window to look out onto the front yard, and there he was waving at me. He whispered, "Go tell your mom and dad exactly what I told you." I looked back at the door to my bedroom, and then went back at the front yard, and he was gone. I immediately woke up, ran to my parents' room, and turned on the light. I told them exactly what my grandpa had told me. They told me it was just a dream and to go back to bed. I told them again exactly what my grandpa told me. Again, frustrated, it was 2 a.m. They told me to go to bed and we would talk about it in the morning. And just then, the phone rang. It was the hospital. My mother started sobbing. Grandpa had passed. At that moment, she was just there with my father staring at me. I still remember their faces. They both looked at each other, and then me, and then each other, and finally smiled and stopped crying. They gave me a big hug and told me they loved me and to go back to bed. They ended up going to the hospital that night, and my aunt came over to watch us. But we have never talked about that night since. In fact, I don't think I have ever written about it, which explains the tears rolling down my cheeks right now. I mean, I don't think that one was a glitch story. It was a cool story, but it's not a glitch. I've won the lottery twice by playing numbers that I saw in my dreams the night before. The first dream was me entering 4906 on a keypad for some reason. The second dream was months later, me using a bottle of 409. I only won a couple of $100, but it's better than nothing. I got exact matches both times. Maybe I should try that. In about 2003 or 2004, my mother, who was absolutely not a believer in ghosts or glitches in the matrix, etc., and would never exaggerate a story, told me about a dream she had, which I have never forgotten. She said she had dreamt about an old family friend who was dying of lung cancer. In her dream, she was hanging out the washing on the clothesline in the backyard when suddenly he walked through the trees and called out to her. She noticed he was wearing a pilot uniform. She was shocked to see him looking so well and exclaimed, "Oh my goodness, you look well. Why are you here?" "Come to talk to me," he answered. "Sorry, no. I have to come to say goodbye to you and tell you I'm so much better. But I can't stay. I've got to go now. Goodbye." And he walked off past her through the yard and out of sight. For some reason, my mother woke up, rolled over, and looked at the time. 5:23 a.m. Later that day, she got a phone call from his wife. He had passed away at that exact time. Back in 2004, I was returning home from a road trip with two friends. I received a phone call from my parents asking when we would be arriving, and I explained that we were about 25 minutes away. About a minute later, we came around a bend. It was a full moon, and we could see the reflection from a lake below us. And other than that, the road was completely empty. Suddenly, everything went completely dark in the car. No lights from the dash or gauges or headlights on the road. The music also stopped and restarted at the beginning of the CD we were listening to. There was now a vehicle pulled over by the police about a fourth of a mile in front of us that hadn't been there a split second before. I assumed I had just dozed off for a second, as it was late. I thought it was still quite peculiar, though. After about a minute, the driver of the car turned the music all the way down and said, "Did that just happen to anyone else?" The other passenger in the back seat sat forward abruptly and explained, "I thought I just fell asleep." We then realized that the clock in the car was reading an hour later than it just had been a minute before. To keep ourselves from freaking out, we decided that the car had possibly had a momentary electrical failure and reset the clock to an odd time. Turned off the dash lights, headlights, and gauges, and restarted the CD player. When we arrived home 25 minutes later, we were 1 hour late. I'm missing an hour of my life, and to this day, I have no idea how it happened. That was aliens, I'm telling you. And that's all of the big show this week. Hope you enjoyed those glitch stories. I like glitch stories. Big fun. We'll see you again right here next week. Thanks for listening. God bless.